Welcome back to Whispers of Time. What if everything you believe about learning English is the reason you still cannot speak it? Most people spend years studying English. They read books, memorize words, watch videos, and understand grammar rules very well. But when it's time to speak, everything disappears. The mind goes blank, the confidence drops. The words get stuck somewhere between thought and voice. And the painful truth is this: it is not because English is difficult. It is because English is never truly used. This is where the real problem begins. Because English is not a subject you pass, it is a skill you build. And skills are not created by watching, they are created by doing. Think about it carefully. You cannot learn swimming by reading about water. You cannot learn driving by studying traffic rules alone. And you cannot learn speaking by staying silent. But still, millions of learners make the same mistake every single day. They prepare, they study, they plan, but they never actually speak. And that silence becomes the biggest barrier between them and fluency. Now imagine something simple. A learner who knows fewer words, but speaks every single day. And another learner who knows thousands of words, but never opens their mouth. After 1 year, who speaks better? The answer is always the same. Because fluency does not belong to the one who knows more. It belongs to the one who uses more. The moment you start speaking, even imperfectly, you begin building something powerful inside your brain. Not just knowledge, but real ability. At first it feels uncomfortable. Your sentences break. Your mind slows down. You search for words that don't come quickly. You pause in the middle of thoughts. This is not failure. This is the beginning of growth. Because fluency is not born from perfection. It is born from repetition. When you speak the same simple sentences again and again, something changes quietly inside you. Your mouth becomes trained. Your brain becomes faster. Your fear starts shrinking without you noticing. Even a basic sentence like, "I am learning English," feels heavy at first, but after repeating it many times in real situations, it stops feeling like a sentence. It becomes automatic, natural, effortless. And that is the first hidden truth most learners never realize. Speaking is not the final step of learning English. It is the foundation. But there is something even deeper. Many learners say, "I will speak when I become confident." But confidence does not come before speaking. Confidence is the result of speaking. If you wait for confidence first, you will wait forever. But if you start speaking without confidence, confidence slowly builds itself through action. Now think about fear. Fear is the silent reason most learners stop. Fear of mistakes, fear of judgment, fear of sounding wrong. It creates a mental wall, and behind that wall, English stays trapped, understood but never spoken. But fear does not disappear by thinking. It disappears by doing. Every time you speak, even if your voice shakes, even if your grammar is wrong, you send a message to your brain. I survived this. And slowly, that fear loses power. One conversation at a time, the wall begins to break. Now something important happens here. When you start speaking daily, even in simple ways, your brain stops translating everything word by word. At first you think in your language, then convert it into English, then speak. But with practice, that delay starts shrinking. until one day you don't translate anymore, you just speak. That is when real fluency begins to appear. Not perfect English, not advanced vocabulary, but natural flow. And there is another change happening at the same time. Your mouth is learning. Yes, your mouth. Because speaking is not only mental, it is physical. Your tongue, lips, and voice need training too. That is why even simple English feels difficult at first. Your brain may know the word, but your mouth is not used to producing it. But repetition changes everything. The more you speak, the smoother your pronunciation becomes. The more you repeat, the more natural your speech feels. Slowly, your mouth stops struggling and starts cooperating. And this is where transformation begins. Not in books, not in grammar rules, but in daily speaking. Because every sentence you speak is not just practice. It is training your future self. And then something even more powerful begins to happen. The moment you stop treating English like a subject and start using it as a tool, your entire way of thinking starts to shift. At first, speaking still feels slow. Your brain still searches for words. You still pause too much. You still hesitate before answering simple questions like, "What did you do today?" or "How are you feeling?" But something is changing underneath all of that struggle. Your brain is learning speed. Not because you are studying harder, but because you are forcing it to respond in real time. This is where most learners get stuck. They believe improvement comes from understanding more. But real improvement comes from reacting faster. And reaction speed only develops in one way: speaking. Every time you try to answer a question in English, your brain is doing something new. It is building shortcuts. It is learning to connect ideas directly to English instead of your native language. At first, it feels heavy, but slowly the process becomes lighter. You start noticing small victories. A sentence that once took 10 seconds to form now takes 5, then 3, then 1, and sometimes no delay at all. That is not luck. That is training. But there is another hidden battle happening inside every learner: the battle with memory. Many people complain, "I learn words today, but tomorrow I forget them," and they blame their memory. But the real issue is not memory, it is usage. Because the brain does not store what it only sees, it stores what it uses. When you only read vocabulary, your brain treats it as temporary information. But when you speak a word, when you use it in a real sentence, your brain marks it as important. For example, if you learn the word confident and never use it, it fades away. But if you say things like, "I feel confident today," or "She speaks confidently," that word becomes part of your active language. And active language is never easily forgotten. This is why speaking changes everything about memory. Because speaking forces your brain to retrieve information, not just recognize it. And retrieval creates stronger memory paths than passive learning ever can. Now something even more interesting happens. As you speak more, your emotional connection to English starts growing. At the beginning, English feels artificial, like something separate from your real identity. But when you start using it to express your thoughts, feelings, and daily experiences, it becomes personal. "I am tired today. I feel happy. I want to improve." These are not just sentences anymore. They become reflections of your real life. And when language connects to emotion, memory becomes stronger, and fluency becomes more natural. But the biggest shift still lies ahead. Because speaking does not only change your English, it changes your confidence in real life. At first, even small conversations feel stressful. Your heart beats faster. You overthink every sentence. You worry about mistakes before you even speak. But after enough practice, something breaks inside that fear. You realize something simple but powerful. Nothing bad happens when you try. People understand you. Mistakes are not as serious as you thought. And every conversation you survive makes the next one easier. That is how confidence is built. Not by waiting, but by exposure. And slowly, you start seeing yourself differently. Not as someone who is learning English, but as someone who actually speaks it. This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Because once your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You stop waiting for the perfect sentence. Instead, you start speaking with whatever English you have. And that is the moment where real growth accelerates. Because fluency is not built in silence. It is built in imperfect conversations, repeated daily, until your brain stops resisting and starts flowing. And now, without even realizing it, you are no longer translating every thought. You are beginning to think in English itself. And at this stage, something very quiet but extremely powerful starts to happen inside you. You no longer notice the struggle as much. Not because English has become easy, but because your mind has started adapting to it. What once felt like a heavy task now begins to feel like a natural process. You are no longer translating every single idea. You are no longer searching for every word like it is hidden somewhere far away. Instead, sentences start forming more smoothly, almost as if they are appearing on their own. This is the turning point most learners never reach, because they stop too early, right when the brain is about to adapt. But you continue, and that continuation changes everything. Now, English is no longer something you study for a few minutes a day. It starts appearing in your daily thoughts. You look at your room and think simple sentences in English. You describe your actions in your mind. You react to your emotions in English without forcing it. I need to go. I should rest. This is getting better. Small thoughts, but they are no longer translations. They are becoming direct expressions. And this is where fluency quietly begins to live inside you. But there is another transformation happening too, one you might not notice immediately. Your relationship with mistakes is changing. Earlier, every mistake felt like a failure. Every wrong sentence felt like proof that you are not good enough. Every hesitation felt like weakness. But now, something different happens. You start noticing that mistakes are not stopping you anymore. They are guiding you. When you say something wrong and still continue the conversation, you realize the world does not collapse. People still understand you. The conversation still moves forward. And more importantly, you learn from it instantly. That moment of correction becomes more powerful than hours of silent study, because your brain remembers experience far more deeply than theory. This is why speaking daily becomes the fastest teacher you will ever have. Not perfect teaching, not comfortable teaching, but real teaching. And real teaching changes people faster. Now your confidence begins to stabilize. Not the fake confidence that comes from knowing grammar rules, but the real confidence that comes from surviving real communication. You start feeling something new: control. You are no longer afraid of conversations. You are not waiting for perfect English anymore. You are simply using what you have and improving along the way. And that mindset shift is everything. Because at this level, English is no longer outside of you. It is inside your actions, inside your reactions, inside your thoughts. But there is still one final transformation left, the most important one: identity. At the beginning of your journey, you saw yourself as a learner, someone trying to understand English, someone hoping to speak one day. But after consistent speaking, something subtle but life-changing happens. You start seeing yourself differently. You are no longer someone who is learning English. You are someone who speaks English. This change does not happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through daily small conversations, through imperfect sentences, through mistakes that didn't stop you. And once this identity forms, everything becomes easier. Because now speaking is not an effort. It is simply what you do. You don't ask yourself, "Should I speak English today?" You simply start speaking. And that is the final stage most learners dream of, but only a few reach. Not perfection, not native-level grammar, but natural flow, confidence, and comfort with expressing yourself. Now, when you look back at where you started, you realize something important. The barrier was never intelligence. It was never talent. It was silence. And the moment you broke that silence, even in small, imperfect ways, you started changing everything. So the real lesson is simple but powerful. English does not improve in your mind alone. It improves in your voice. Every word you speak builds fluency. Every mistake you make builds experience. Every conversation you attempt builds confidence. And every day you speak brings you closer to the version of yourself you once thought was impossible. So don't wait for perfect English. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Don't wait for confidence to arrive first. Start speaking now, with what you already have. Because fluency is not something you find one day. It is something you build, sentence by sentence, every single day. And if you continue this path, there will come a moment when you realize something incredible. You are no longer learning English. You are living it. This is the whisper of transformation.